It is very often that we hear of cases that revolve around abuse of power and defiance of the rule of law. However, it is not in many occasions we see it connected to secret affairs. Today, we uncover such a case. This is a case that attracted a lot of attention from the media and the world in general, as her murder was linked to high-profile politicians in Malaysia. This crime case also interested people of all kinds, as it had many topics and factors: politics, corruption, money, murder, and secret affairs. This is the story of Mongolian model and translator Shaariibuugiin Altantuyaa. Altantuyaa met her death in a very unfortunate way, leaving a trail of so many unanswered questions. This video sheds light on what exactly happened leading up to her death. One thing is for sure is that there was more to her death than just a secret affair gone wrong. Altantuyaa was born on May 6, 1978 in Mongolia. Altantuyaa and her sister were raised together in the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic, also known as the Soviet Union or USSR. She was a very smart girl. At a very young age, she was fluent in Russian, Chinese, Mongolian, French, and English. From a young age, she was exceptionally creative, and her parents supported her through this on the road to achieving her goals and dreams. She was self-driven and believed in hard work, learning new things and taking good care of herself. In 1990, Altantuyaa moved back to Mongolia. At this time, she was a trained teacher. She met a Mongolian techno singer called Madai, who she fell in love with and later married. In 1996, she gave birth to her first son. Things started going downhill shortly after this. Her marriage fell into shambles and she ended up divorcing Madai. She then took her son to her parents and decided to attend a modeling school in France. Her mother, however, denied her daughter ever working as a model. She later returned to Mongolia and remarried in 2003. She gave birth to another child and shortly after got divorced once again. She left the second child with her parents and started traveling for work as a translator to countries such as China, Malaysia, and Singapore. In 2006, Altantuyaa told her parents that she was leaving for Malaysia, where she was expecting a big break in her job as a translator. This was allegedly not the first time that she would be going to Malaysia. She had first visited the country in 1995. As a normal parent would be, her dad was concerned and asked her if she knew anyone from the country. She said that she knew a big boss, which according to Mongolians meant a person of great power. In 2004, Altantuyaa met Abdul Razak Baginda, a data analyst for the Malaysian Strategic Research Convention in Hong Kong, at an international diamond convention. She had been introduced to him by the then Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia, Najib Razak. Little did she know that this mere interaction would be what would lead her to the shackles of her death. She got into a romantic relationship with Abdul Razak despite him being married. Razak, however, used the excuse that Altantuyaa was his translator, being that she was fluent in various languages. As a result of this, she traveled with him for various overseas work projects as his translator. One of them was a trip they took to Paris, France. The trip had aimed to purchase Scorpion-class submarines for the Malaysian government. Following their romantic relationship, Razak gave Altantuyaa a very lavish and fancy lifestyle. This included making sure her sons were well cared for at home by showering her with money and expensive gifts. However, the relationship did not last long. About a year into the relationship, Razak started growing distant and pulling away. Maybe he was not exactly pulling away, but Altantuyaa wanted more. She wanted more than gifts and money. She wanted a solid relationship. This might have made it seem like Razak was pulling away when he was not. Because of this, Altantuyaa was enraged and decided to go back to Malaysia to sort things out with Razak. She told her dad that she was traveling for work. She was flying to face her demise. The more she tried to meet up with him, the more Razak stayed home, as he believed Altantuyaa would respect his marriage and not visit his mansion. She did not. When she realized he was avoiding her, she wrote him a message saying, "Razak, don't play, okay? You call me or I'll come to your home today." He failed to call her and she did not fail to keep her word. She showed up at his home that evening. At this point, Razak considered this harassment. Altantuyaa was not giving up. She was too persistent and Razak wanted a way out of this. You would assume that he would go to the police to report harassment. No, he did not. He instead went to the Prime Minister's head of security, who put him in contact with Chief Inspector Azilah Hadri, who was 30 years of age at the time. Razak says that he had asked Azilah to scare Altantuyaa off, not kill her. This was a special order, being that Azilah had bragged to Razak how he had killed several people before. The day before the death of Altantuyaa, she had visited a police station and reported that someone had been following her and that she feared for her life. The official report stated that she thought she was being followed as she was trying to get in touch with her lover, who had lied to her all along and wanted her dead or in jail. She stated that she was blackmailing him, as her life problems stemmed from the deception of this man. She finished her statement by saying that if anything was to happen to her, the man would be responsible. On the same evening, the evening of October the 18th, 2006, Altantuyaa decided to visit Razak again. Just as she was about to ring the bell, someone grabbed her from behind, tied her up, and shoved her into an unmarked car before driving off. She was then driven into the thick rainforest of Taman Negara, which is just outside Kuala Lumpur, the capital city of Malaysia. As she was screaming and struggling to free herself, Altantuyaa was shot twice. Her alleged abductors were believed to be government guards, as they were dressed as such. The men then tied her arms and legs with Peton and RDX explosives before pressing a button and blowing her body into pieces. These were the kinds of explosives that were used in quarries. The fact that they were used to blow up an ordinary girl is beyond inhumane. It's monstrous, it's cruel, harsh, brutal, diabolic. Killing her was enough. Blowing her into pieces is something else. Perhaps they were trying to get rid of evidence. Being government guards, they thought they would walk away free, as they seemed to have been used to. This was not one of those times. Their inhumane act would catch up with them. This would lead to the uncovering of dark things happening in the government: corruption, dishonesty, and embezzlement of funds. Being such an unusual incident, it did not take long before this case captured the attention of the media in Malaysia. This made the police seriously involved, and soon the two suspects were named: Chief Inspector Azilah Hadri, 30, and Corporal Sirul Azhar Umar, 35. They were members of the elite Special Actions Units and served as bodyguards to the Malaysian Prime Minister, Abdullah Ahmad Badawi. They were arrested together with Razak. He was charged with abetment to murder. When the court hearings began, one of the witnesses was Altantuya's cousin, Burma Oyunchimeg. He presented a picture as evidence. He identified 3 individuals having dinner together: Altantuyaa, Abdul Razak, and a powerful government official, as Altantuyaa has described him. The third individual was identified as Najib Razak, the then Deputy Prime Minister. That was the person who had introduced Altantuyaa to Abdul Razak. During the trial, Razak called his private investigator, Balas Subramanian, as a witness, and his private investigator testified to the connection between Najib and Altantuyaa. He said that Altantuyaa had a sexual relationship with Najib Razak. He then disappeared after making these allegations. He later retracted his statement, saying he was under duress when he testified. After he retracted his testimony, he fled the country with his wife and children behind. He fled the country to avoid prosecution for false testament. This showed there was someone he feared enough to either testify under duress or to run away after retracting, but who? He reappeared and said that whatever he said in the statutory statement about Najib was true, and the second one was not being. He signed the statement without even reading what was in it, and he was threatened. He actively campaigned for the opposition till he faced his death in 2015. The Malaysian editor's statement was also used as evidence. In his blog, he gave a connection between Najib Razak, the Prime Minister, and Altantuyaa. The declaration published on his blog was called, "Let's Send the Altantuyaa Murderers to Hell." Najib continued to deny ever meeting Altantuyaa. Later, he retracted his statement. During his trial, he further stated that he was informed by reliable sources that Najib's wife was at the scene of the crime when Altantuyaa was murdered, and that acting Colonel Abdulaziz is the one who attached the explosives to the body of Altantuyaa to blow it to pieces. Abdulaziz later filed a suit against him for defamation, insisting he did not know anything of the matter. Abdulaziz was seeking a public apology from Petra to be published on websites and newspapers, the declaration to be deleted from his blog, and damages of 1 million RM. In his defense, he said that the accusations he made in his blog were not information that he believed to be true. He was just passing information that was passed to him by the opposition. He did not directly accuse anyone of anything. They say every rumor has some truth in it, which leaves us wondering what the truth in this statement is. This brings up the question of motive. Who ordered the execution of Altantuyaa? Was there any link between the Prime Minister and Altantuyaa, as the killers were his special bodyguards? The French decided to join in the investigations, being that they had been mentioned in a deal. Remember the trip to Paris I mentioned at the start of the video where they were going to buy a submarine for Malaysia? Altantuyaa found out that one of the parties engaged in discussions, French business Armerie, paid out fees of 114 million euros for the sale, reportedly 1 billion euros or 4.7 billion RM for the acquisition of 3 submarines. The commission was recorded as a credit in the books of Abdul Razak Perimekar's firm. A letter found after the death of Altantuyaa that was sent by her reveals that she had been blackmailing Razak, demanding $500,000 in exchange for keeping quiet about her knowledge of the transaction. Razak stated that Altantuyaa knew nothing of the deal, and these were false allegations, being she was introduced to him in 2004 whilst the submarine deal was finalized on June 5, 2002. Some other evidence led to uncovering that some of the money from this deal went to the accounts of Razak and Najib whilst it was supposed to be the government's money. Billions were sent to their accounts. Between 1999 and 2006, no records of an Altantuyaa Shaariibuugiin entering France were discovered by French investigators, but Shaariibuugiin Bayasgalam, who appeared identical to Altantuyaa, entered the scene. However, this was never verified. Furthermore, as Najib's presence in the country was documented but his immigration status remained undocumented, it was claimed that his team entered France through diplomatic channels. Razak testified in the course of the trial that he had gone to France in 2005 with her. Why were there no records of her arrival or presence in the nation? This demonstrates a massive insider influence network. Furthermore, Rosanna Wiley, the director of Perimeter, said that since all participants in the discussions knew English, there was no need for a translator because the talks were held in that language. Since all of Altantuya's documented connections to Razak indicated that she was a translator, what was she doing in France if that is the case, which cannot be verified? On October the 11th, 2008, Razak was acquitted due to lack of enough evidence. However, in 2022, evidence of the statement that Altantuyaa recorded at the police station the day before her death was discovered. It stated that if anything were to happen to her, they should look for Razak. Despite that, no appeal was made and Razak is still a free man. In April 2009, after Razak was set free, the defense took up Sarul and Azilah as witnesses to try and defend them. The defense counsel said in their defense statement that the explosives used were not linked to the government, thus there was no way it would be linked to them. However, High Court Judge Zaki Yassin ruled that their statements were unbelievable and only showed them blaming each other. They were then sentenced to hanging till death. The two policemen filed for an appeal and were acquitted in 2013 because the prosecution did not provide a strong motive for murder on the two policemen. The decision was upheld by many Malaysians. The prosecution immediately appealed to the federal court. The acquittal was overturned in 2015, and both Shaariibuugiin and Azilah were found guilty of first-degree murder. Shaariibuugiin did not show up to the conviction. A search was sent out, and 5 days later, he was detained at the Australian border in Villawood Immigration Detention Centre. The non-refoulement rule in Australia did not allow him to be sent back to Malaysia. He was detained indefinitely till November 2023 when the High Court of Australia ruled on another case that the indefinite detention of an asylum was illegal. He was released and remains a free man as long as he stays in Australia. During his time in prison in Australia, he disclosed that he had been given instructions to assassinate Altantuyaa and that the actual killers were still at large. He also said that testimony from Najib's supervisor and aide-de-camp, Musa Safri, ought to have been required during the murder trial. Najib and Inspector General of Police Khalid Abu Bakar quickly discredited Shaariibuugiin's allegations. Najib was challenged to clarify why he said Shaariibuugiin's assertions were total rubbish by the opposition during the campaign season. He insinuated that the opposition was just trying to bring him down. Shaariibuugiin Ajar retracted his previous allegations about Najib's involvement in the murder case in January 2016. After being freed from jail in November 2023, Shaariibuugiin stated that he received around $200,000 from his previous lawyer to vindicate Najib. That was what happened to Altantuyaa. It is a story filled with mystery, sorrow, and unanswered questions. Altantuya's life was cut short in a way that shook not just her family and friends, but the entire world. There are a lot of unresolved issues regarding the circumstances surrounding her sudden death, which reveal the dark side of justice and power. It leaves us with a great deal of unanswered questions. Who's in charge, and will they ever face consequences? What was Altantuya's murderer's true motivation? Was it only an affair gone bad, or is her death connected to the hunger for power? This is not just the end of a video, it's a call to action. Share this video, talk about Altantuya's story, and let's keep the conversation alive in the comment section. The pursuit of justice doesn't end here. It's a journey that requires all of us to stand together against abuses of power and demand accountability. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories such as this one. Thank you for watching.